And again, I want to thank everyone for coming out this morning to this Meet the Candidates event that the Beaufort County Farm Bureau is hosting. I guess for extenuating circumstances, we're hosting and holding this event. Again, I want to thank the public and especially the candidates. Of course, without them, there wouldn't be any reason for us to be up here this morning. Before I get started and go any further, number one, any candidates or anyone in the public who is not registered, please do so now. And in the meantime, Ms. Kelly Hopkins wants to say a few words.
Good morning. It is so good to see so many people here this morning. As Director of Elections, we always worry about turnout. And with special elections like this, turnout tends to be on the lower side. So it's very, very reassuring to me that we've got so many people here today. I've been asked to come and just kind of give a little brief summary of what kind of is going on this year. In an odd number year, we usually do not have elections like this, but due to a constitutional provision, a U.S. constitutional provision, after Walter Jones passed away, the U.S. Constitution dictates that we must have a special election to fill that congressional seat. The Governor Cooper, issued a writ of election that set the dates for the election that we'll have this summer. Those dates are, the primary will be April 30th with a general election July 9th, but there is a possibility that a second primary could be needed. There's a North Carolina statute that says that a primary winner has to receive 30% of the vote. So if one of those candidates does not receive 30% of the primary vote, then the second place finisher could call for a runoff or a second primary. If that were to happen, then the second primary will be July 9th and the general election will be September 10th. You have a lot of candidates running this year. We've got 17 Republicans, 6 Democrats, 2 Libertarians, and 1 Constitutional Party. Over on the table over here, I have primary sample ballots, also some candidate lists with all the candidates' contact information on them for you. And also, I just want to briefly go over party. The only time that your ballot style depends on party is during a primary, and that's when each party gets together and narrows their candidate down for the general election. So if you're a Democrat, Republican, or Libertarian, you must vote in that primary election. But if you're an unaffiliated voter, you do have the option on election day to choose which primary that you want to participate in. If you do choose one, then that also carries over to the second primary if we have one, because that is a continuation of the first. For information about One Stop, that started today at 8 o'clock, so you can head right over to our office after here and cast your ballot. That started at 8. That will go through April 26th, which is the Friday before the election. Usually we have one-stop voting on the Saturday prior to the election, but this year the law has changed and it will end at 5 o'clock the Friday prior to the election. So if you have any questions about information that I've talked about this morning or have any questions, I'll be here after all of this is over. And also we have our website that's beaufortncboe.org. Thank you.
Okay, now I guess it's time for what we all came here for. Thank you, Kelly. Okay, if the candidates would like to start coming this way, they can, or while I'm going over the guidelines. In case the public's wondering, how the candidates will be speaking was simple. As they came in this morning, they got a number as to how they registered, and they will be with their seats up here with the numbers in them. So the even numbers are over here. Even here and odd on this side. In the interest of time, candidates will be restricted in let me start over. Again, my name is Jamie Boyd. I will be the moderator for today's event. In the interest of time, candidates will be restricted in their introductions to stating their name, where they live, their occupation, and their party affiliation. Each candidate will be given 3 minutes for their statement. Our timekeeper will hold up a yellow card when the candidate has 20 seconds remaining in his or her allotted time. A red card will be shown when time has expired. We ask that when the time's up signal is given, candidates finish their sentence and yield the floor. Candidates are asked not to address each other during the forum, but to address their remarks to the audience and any questions regarding procedure to the moderator. There will be no opportunity for questions from the audience, and we ask that there be no applause or any other response to any speaker's remarks. We encourage candidates to come early and stay late in order to mingle with the audience. Okay, you've got the time cards. My wife, Gina Boyd, will be the timekeeper. She is very good at keeping 4 kids and myself straight, so she ought to be good at this. Yeah. Especially Tuesday afternoons are hectic around my house. So what I'm going to do is ask candidate 1 to come up now, and then just as soon as they sit down, the next one can come up. Thank you.
I only have 3 minutes, so I'm going to stick to these notes. I want to get it all out. Good morning. Good morning. Good to be here. Thank you for this opportunity that you've given us to share our ideals and who we are as to this race. My name is Ike Johnson, and I'm running for Congress. First thing I want you to know about me is that I care about people. I care about all people, not just certain people, but I'm specifically in care and in concern about the people of the 3rd District. I'm a retired Marine officer. I spent half my career as an enlisted and half as an officer. I retired as a major. I am a community leader. I have a mentoring organization in Onslow County and the surrounding areas, and we work with kids who have lost their way from high school and middle school, and we work with the families to get them back on track. I'm also a business leader. I've been a business executive for a company called Sodexo Marriott, and did that for about 5 years. We brought food service operations to the Marine Corps back in 2002, 2003, and those jobs are still in the eastern North Carolina area, Cherry Point, Camp Lejeune, all those bases on the East Coast. I was the vice president for that operation. I know how to bring people together. I know how to bring jobs. I've done it before, and I can do it again. I'm a Christian, I'm a compassionate leader, and I'm running for Congress to fight for the people of Eastern North Carolina, the 3rd District. I will fight for your future, your concerns, and your challenges. I care about your families. Every American deserves quality health care and a good education. In my opinion, health care is a right of all Americans. I care about your future. We need innovative thinking for our diverse rural economy so we can bring more jobs to this area. Our future depends on us being able to protect our coastline, our fisheries, and our local farmers. Mike, thanks for helping me out this morning with some of the challenges of the farmers. I grew up on a farm, 120 acres in Mississippi. Spent the first 17 years of my life doing that. I just did what Papa told me to do. He was a Baptist preacher, and there was no question as to what to do on the farm. But I got a great education on what farmers do and how that operation go. I understand the outreach or the overreach of the federal government, and I'm here as your potential congressperson. I will address those issues for you and all the other issues that you might have. Will you please take the time to go to my website, Ike2019.com, and learn more about who I am and what I stand for, because I want to fight for you and I care. Thank you so much.
Good morning, good morning. Good to see y'all. I thought with so many candidates there might not be enough seats left out here for you guys to sit. We appreciate you being here. I am Alan Thomas. I'm not going to give you a big canned campaign speech. I just try to be myself. I was born in New Bern. I grew up in Vanceboro, North Carolina. I worked in these tobacco fields right up here in Chocowinity. My hands are still stained yellow, I think, from as a kid in Vanceboro and Chocowinity, and that's where as you guys probably know, it's where I got my blue jeans money back in the day before you went back to school every fall. But let me tell you, I'm very familiar, and the Farm Bureau is so special to my family, long-standing. My grandparents and grandparents and great-grandparents, all farmers in Craven County, all throughout the area. And let me tell you, farmers are working with razor-thin margins these days. Regulation is so difficult. You don't have the proper representation. You have to be on your farm and doing work. It's so difficult to be there every day when decisions are being made in Raleigh and in Washington, D.C., when those that are whispering in their ear about other special interests, yours aren't being represented. And if you look at my signs over there, it doesn't say Alan Thomas is running for Congress. It says Alan Thomas is running for Eastern North Carolina. I think we need to reverse the process. I think we need to get people out of D.C. and get them back here. A little bit about my background. I am a business owner. I started a technology company a number of years ago with an ECU graduate. We're entrepreneurs. We started in an extra a room in the house and grew it. We had over 160 clients across the country. And we were very blessed and fortunate. My household is a Christian household. I have all my kids are in public school. I'm a big believer in the public school process and investment in our community across the board. I was the mayor of the city of Greenville. I see Bears back here somewhere. Worked with him a good bit. I was the mayor for 3 terms. Coming into Greenville after the Great Recession, I was able to keep the property taxes the lowest ever in the history of that city. And I'll tell you why I was proud of that. While it was at its lowest, I was able to redirect our resources and grow Greenville. In the center of the city, which is a place you didn't go back in 2011, it now has over $900 million of new investment and development across the center of Greenville. I'm proud to have been a part of that. But after 5.5 years there, I was given the opportunity to take over an asset that nobody wanted, to be honest, the Global Trans Park. And the past 2 years, it has been my mission to take that asset and connect that to resources in the military and hopefully in agriculture, logistics, and aerospace, and bring jobs that are double the average income to Eastern North Carolina. Guys, I've been a leader on the local level. You've elected me. I've been a leader on the state level, working for so many, and I've been working closely for the past 2.5 years on the federal level. And Walter Jones was a personal friend. I'm running because we lost Walter. Y'all need somebody who knows what Eastern Carolina is all about, that didn't come down here from Washington, D.C. because they wanted to run for this office 4 or 5 months ago. They've lived here. You know me. So don't fall for the talk. Let's get this thing done, and let's start representing ourselves right across the East. I'm Alan Thomas, AlanThomasCongress.com. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Dana Outlaw, Mayor of the City of New Bern. And I want to just start this thing out by saying, yesterday I was at a gospel radio station, and part of the interview, the lady asked me, she said, what's your favorite gospel song? I said, my favorite song is Drifting Too Far from the Shore. And Don, you might want to sing that for us, but I'm not going to today. But I want to tell you, as a nation...
Get to the song.
Come on.
I'll get that. I know that. Drifting too far from the shore.
You're going too low.
You're
Drifting too far. See, that's the problem when you're not together. You were going too low.
I can get up high now, but
Okay, go ahead.
drifting too far from the shore.
All right. Okay, what that's all about is a lack of togetherness, you see, from the very start. But what I want to say about that is the most important thing I was trying to get to you in that message, we're drifting too far from the shore as Americans because our children today are not pulling tobacco, right, Alan? And every child in North Carolina needs to pull some tobacco. And I think we've been drifting too far from the shore because of that. So what that's saying to you is, as mayor of the city of New Bern and the ability to reach out during the hurricane, what are we going to do to bring Eastern North Carolina back? How are we going to support our local farmers? How are we going to keep conglomerate farming from taking over Eastern North Carolina small farmers? How are we going to grow small farmers back? And so as we look at those items, in 2013, I ran and became mayor of the city of New Bern. And as mayor of the city of New Bern, we worked very carefully with our county, our state, our federal government. Governor Cooper, President Trump came to New Bern, And we saw a vision as to how we could turn around a bad situation in New Bern. And so many of the issues I see in Eastern North Carolina are not Republican, Democrat, Independent, or any other party. They are together issues, how we have drifted too far from the shore to protect something as vital as my ability to go out and take my 120-acre farm and do something with it. The old International 240 is sitting under the shelter. The Ford 3000 is sitting under the shelter. Even the newer Kubota L31, they're sitting under my shelter because I don't know how to make a living with it. And so I want to reach out to you and figure out ways we, from a grassroots effort, can save the American farmer and bring it back, grow it back, and at the same time get these environmental hazards off of us that leave us all in the hardship of seeing our farms turn into $700 or $800 an acre solar farms. And so you guys know the problems we have in Eastern North Carolina. I want to be there for you as a congressman, as a real estate appraiser from Duck, North Carolina down to Wilmington. I physically know this area. I've appraised it for 40 years now. Look forward to being your congressman. Let's quit drifting too far from the shore. Sorry about that,
All right, so I promise, first of all, I'm not going to sing, especially after that. Not that it wasn't good. I mean,
I didn't get it high enough.
Hey guys, thanks a lot for being here. My name's Colonel Richard Bew, U.S. Marine Corps retired. Last name B-E-W. So I am recently retired, 1 October. I spent 29 years in the Corps, 4 combat tours in Iraq, also Afghanistan, Bosnia, Serbia. But I served in senior executive roles as well as a senior officer. I've developed programs across multiple agencies, multi-million-dollar programs to help save lives during combat. Some of those are classified, and some of them I can post publicly. I've served in a capacity as a chief for the Air Wing in Afghanistan, with staff 3 times the size of Greenville, New Bern, and Jacksonville city staffs put together, a geographic area 3 times the size of this entire district. But frankly, I don't think that's very relevant. There's a bunch of good executive skills up here. Guys have done some developmental stuff. We all have. I think there's a couple other things you should think about when you decide on who your congressman's going to be. Number one, who are they? Look, I live about 10 minutes from the front gate at Cherry Point. I came there about 25 years ago. I wasn't born there. I came there over 25 years ago. I bought a farm home, and for the past 20 years, I've been renovating it with my wife. And if anybody here has taken more than 20 years on a renovation project, please tell my wife so I can get off the hook. She thinks it should have been done a couple years ago. I'm moving along on that. It's my home. It's where I raised my daughter, Tiffany, who's an EMT in Jacksonville. It's where I raised my son, Richard, who's now a 3rd-year cadet at the U.S. Coast Guard Academy. My mom was a church organist. My dad, 48 years, a school teacher. I passed on the values that they gave to me, hopefully to my kids. But besides knowing who I am, I think you need to know that I can be effective on day one. Because we've been without a congressman since essentially last September. And a lot of things have been taken away from us during that period of time. I don't know if you realize that. Over $100 million of projects at Cherry Point and Lejeune. Nobody's been on the watch. I spent 7 years working directly with Congress. I have more legislative experience than every other candidate in this field put together. You need to know, secondly, that I'm going to hear you. I've heard your priorities are health care. I know that we want to protect Medicare. My own grandson was born with cerebral palsy, and I saw what it means to have access to great health care because of the military, and I don't know why we wouldn't want that for every American. I think that's critical. Education, we need better after school, we need better before school, and we need better summer programs because we have dual working parents and single parents that can't make ends meet and get their kids educated. I'll take care of all of these things if I'm lucky enough to serve as your congressman. It's richardbew.com. Thanks very much for your time, guys.
Well, those of you who have met Dr. Greg Murphy know that I'm not Dr. Greg Murphy, but I'm very pleased to be here on his behalf. He apologizes for not being able to come. As you know, all of these candidates have been burning up the roads, and I can tell you for a fact that they truly love Eastern North Carolina, and I know Greg would do nothing more to be able to be here. He is the senior chair of the Budget Committee in the House and had some meetings planned that were not able to be changed. So I'm here to speak for him. As a daughter of a farmer, and we're in Northampton County, I know exactly what each of you face every day. Farmers hate regulation. I know I heard my dad talking about that for years. His format is the We the People format. He protects the Constitution by moving power away from Washington and back to the people. That's what we need here in Eastern North Carolina. If he were here, he would tell you he's a constitutional conservative, a Ronald Reagan conservative. He believes in lower taxes, less government, more individual liberty, and he believes in you. He believes in you, the people. You know, Dr. Greg Murphy is a brilliant doctor, and if you had a medical question, you would go ask Greg, what do you do? Greg Murphy wants to hear from each of you as farmers because that's your expertise. He may not have all the perfect formed questions answered, but he'd love to talk to you individually to hear what you have to say. That's what makes a great congressman, and that's what Dr. Greg Murphy will do for you. He wants to surround himself with you and your knowledge. He has a proven track record of being able to persuade individuals through counsel and advice. He's proven that in the House. Farming in Eastern North Carolina is one of the most important issues in our district. And instead of him talking to you, please talk to him. I encourage you to find me after this forum is finished and give me your telephone number, and Greg will personally call you and answer any questions you may have. I'm certain everybody up here can say things have been said about them that are untruths. And so I know each one of them, including Greg especially, would love to talk to you personally about that. I think we're going to answer some questions a little bit later about the different individual issues you have, but just know that Greg will represent your values and do it in a way that won't embarrass you. You don't have to shout and be obnoxious to be a conservative. Please find out more about his stance on Dr. Greg Murphy for Congress. That's Murphy, the number 4, Congress.com. And again, find me after to answer questions. Thanks so much for having me.
Good morning. First, I would just like to thank the Lord for being here because I wouldn't be here without him. My name is Ernest Reeves. I'm asking you after this event, please go and vote for me. I'm the second name on the ballot. Ernest Reeves, that's ERNESTREEVES. When it comes, first of all, I want to thank the Farm Bureau for inviting us here. I was here in 2016, and I was the Democratic nominee for the whole district, and I faced off against Mr. Jones. I'm the last person in the history book to have run against Walter B. Jones, and when I called to concede to him, I thought his secretary was going to pick up the phone and he wanted to talk to me. So I had a chance to concede to him. He graciously told me I did a great job. We ran a great campaign, and I'm hoping that I get an opportunity to serve you again as your Democratic nominee. Some things that are concerning to me in terms of the Farm Bureau, the Clean Water Act. I think the federal government has overreached too far. Tariffs is another issue for me when it comes to farmers. And I want you to know that I'm running to be your voice in the United States Congress, your friend, your representative. Now, my grandfathers both were farmers. One of my grandfathers, he was a tobacco curist, and my other grandfather, he had corn and he had tobacco and other things, chicken, hog, and stuff like that. And my dad was a grass cutter. And some of you all may have heard my story. My father he was a liberal Democrat, but he worked for United States Senator John East for my entire childhood up until he passed away. So I'm asking you to trust me like the senator trusted my father, because I'll do right by you and right for this great county. I'm from Greenville. I'm a retired military officer. Now, some people, have come over here talking about all the experience that they have. That's fine. But I also retired from the Pentagon. I worked for the administrative assistant to the Secretary of the Army's office. I did special duty at the White House. I'm a 3-time commanding officer. I've commanded units outside of the United States as well as inside the United States. I did more than 9 years enlisted time in the military, 6 years as a sergeant, 10 and a half years as a military officer. And so I believe that I have the qualifications to represent you. I will do it well. I will not lie to you. If you're looking for somebody to come to your house, eat some pie, some fried chicken, and have a good time, and also be able to take care of your issues, I'm your candidate. If you're looking for somebody to blow smoke and everything, then you can listen to someone else. But I ask you to please vote for Ernest Reeves for United States Congress. I won't let you down. And when I leave here, in a couple of days, I'll be going to my sister's funeral. I wasn't planning on coming here, but because I've already had a schedule, and my sister died a couple of days ago, I told Ms. Rim that I would come because I believe in keeping my word when I make a promise. Thank you so much.
Hello. I tell you what, this is one of the best attended events I think we've been to. I appreciate it. And as you can probably tell, I am an Eastern North Carolina farm boy by my accent. So I grew up farming. That was one thing Dad had us doing from an early age. We tended about, at the height, we were tending about 600-700 acres, my brother and I and my father. It was his hobby, we called it. It was our full-time job. So spent a little time in the rows. When I was 15, my father started his own company. It was RRR Electric. And I'd get up in the morning, jump in a truck so I could be on a job site in Raleigh or down at the coast by 7 o'clock and go to work. And that's one thing Dad instilled in us. He said, you work. You're going to work. If you're going to be around here, you're going to work. I was talking with a young lady earlier. She said, talking about work ethic. She said, we never said, that's not my job. You hear that a lot lately. That's not my job. Well, that would have got your tail streaked around our house. It would have been your job, and you'd have done it and not said anything more about it. And that was the work ethic. I learned the value of $1 early on. I learned how hard it was to make it. I learned how hard it was to appreciate it. Went to East Carolina University and met my wife there and brought her back to Kinston. And that work ethic got me now. I have 5 companies that I own and manage. I'm not doing this for the money. My businesses are probably going to suffer while I'm doing this. I've got 2 children. Anna's 16 and Magnum's 11. I've tried to do everything I could with them before they hate me for no reason when they get to that age. But so I probably won't get to spend a lot of time with them. But you do learn, like my father said, I'll give you a reason to get out of bed in the morning, those children. And everybody tries to make the world a better place. The way I deal with people is very simple. You might not like what I'm saying, but I truly believe you appreciate the honesty. And I think that's the way we need to be. That's Eastern North Carolina values. I'm currently serving, I live in Kinston, Lenoir County. I'm currently serving on my 3rd term as a county commissioner. And my party's in the minority, but I've been fortunate enough because I'm honest and direct that the other party has given me some of the best positions. Served on the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. I'm on the RPO, I'm on transportation, all the choice boards because they know I'll get in there and work and I'll do what I say. I'll tell you the way I'm going to vote. I'll tell you why I'm voting that way. And then I ask you, well, we need to talk about it. I don't believe in these politics of personal destruction. Just because you disagree with somebody doesn't mean you should destroy them. I will tell you one other thing. Politicians make promises, but I guarantee you, I'll promise to protect the unborn and the born. I think it's absolutely horrifying the way things have gone now, and they're even considering aborting a baby after it's been born. I don't know how we get to that point. We've lost values. My name is Eric Rouse. Y'all need someone who's been in the rows with you, and I've been in those rows. Rouse for the House is my slogan. I'd appreciate your vote, and I ask for it. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing us to be here this morning. It's good to be in the original Washington, right? With that being said, I was born and raised in Eastern North Carolina, Onslow County, lived there all my life. Spent 36 years with the Marine Corps as a civilian Marine, at Camp Lejeune, or Camp Lejeune as it was when I was there. Also been a bivocational Baptist pastor since 1997. I have some experience when it comes to serving people and talking with people and working out problems. First of all, let me say I ran for the North Carolina House in 2010 and was elected in 2010. I've served 8 years North Carolina General Assembly. With that being said, when we went there in 2010, our state unemployment was 10 to 14%. We were overregulated. You talk about regulations. We had regulations on the books that not even the federal government required. So we went to work to change some of those regulations and do away with those that were needless and that were cramping people from being able to work and provide a living for their families. Also, unemployment, Medicaid, we owed Medicaid billions of dollars to Medicaid with the federal government. It took most of the general budget. As Bill Cook can tell you, we went to work to pay that off. We paid off the unemployment insurance half the time, paid off the Medicaid debt in half the time, worked hard to put our state in the right position. Now, because of those difficult choices that we made in those years, we're now one of the best states in the country to do business with. So I'm glad that I'm a part of that. As far as it goes with agriculture, this past year, our farmers were attacked, especially our hog farmers, with lawyers coming in from out of state that were trying to basically destroy what we know is our livelihood as farmers and down east. I went to work with Jimmy Dixon, who also represents the eastern part of North Carolina. I supported what he did when it comes to changing those regulations and those laws to help the farmers in eastern North Carolina. Because it's really unfair when someone are using the rules and going by the rules, doing what they're supposed to do, and then someone comes in from another state and promises millions of dollars to people if you'll go along with me on this lawsuit. So I totally disagree with what was going on, and I supported the farmers in that situation, went to many rallies, and was blessed to be able to give the invocation at the farm rally we had in Raleigh. And if you weren't there for that, you missed a terrific event, because many people came, thousands came to support our farmers. So I'm glad to be a part of that. I also want to tell you, if I go to Washington, D.C., which I've been, last year as a transportation chair, I went to Washington, D.C. to lobby the Department of Transportation for funds for our port at Morehead City and Wilmington and for infrastructure needs. We got those funds just because we went. So I have the experience. I'm willing to work with you. I'm willing to listen to you. I want to be your servant. I thank you for allowing me to be here today, and my website is Phil Shepherd with the number 4 for Congress.com. Thank you. God bless you. God bless our country.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Phil Law. I just want to thank the Farm Bureau and everyone for coming here today. Again, this is a large audience compared to some of the other forums we've been to. First of all, I grew up in Forsyth County, where after graduating from high school, I enlisted in the Marine Corps, and that's what brought me over to Jacksonville, North Carolina, where I've lived for about 20 years. I'm married for almost 18 years with 3 children. My grandfather owned a farm. As a child, I worked on farms before the Marine Corps. Look, we've got a problem that you actually haven't listed on your issues that you want to address, and no one else has addressed. It's actually the draining of our youth from eastern North Carolina, because there are no opportunities here for them. When we want to, U.S. farmers want to hand your farms down to your children, they actually leave for other opportunities over in Raleigh and Charlotte, because we always hear about how well the state is doing and we're number 1 in business and everything, but where is that here? Who is our advocate for eastern North Carolina? That is something that I want to do. I want to be our advocate to tell businesses and infrastructure why eastern North Carolina is the best area in the east, not just eastern North Carolina, but the whole East Coast. We want to retain our youth here in eastern North Carolina. We've got a lot of issues here in eastern North Carolina, but I'm uniquely qualified to handle those challenges as a new generation of leadership emerges. Look, I'm not running to replace Walter Jones. I'm running because illegal immigration is killing our country, and our veterans, both on and off the battlefield, need help. Look, Walter was a champion for the people, and that service will continue. It will. And look, I just want to say God bless America, and God bless you all, because it's worth fighting for. And if you want a fighter, I will be your voice and fight for you in D.C. My website's lawforcongress.com, and I really would truly appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Good morning, Farm Bureau. I gotta say, we down at Craven County Farm Bureau, we've got our work cut out for us because y'all are just killing us. I'm not gonna stand up here and tell you a whole lot about myself because my personal history doesn't mean too much when it comes to who we send to Congress. The personal history of the person that goes to Washington means something, but it doesn't mean a lot. I'm a North Carolina native. I was born in this state. I was raised out of state, returned to this state after I served in the Marine Corps in 6 years. I'm here because we need a fundamentally different vision in the Congress. For years and years and years, we have elected members of both of the two dominant parties. For any of you who aren't familiar, I'm a libertarian. I'm the only candidate up here who's not a Republican or a Democrat. We've elected members of the two dominant parties who have come up here and they've said all the things you want to hear. They've come up here and they've said all the things that their polling tells you they need to say. And they go up there and they work for their parties. And I'm not trying to accuse anybody of being that kind of person, but that's going to happen. And in the meantime, we are slowly losing our freedoms. Our government gets larger, our debt gets larger, our overspending and our overreach gets larger. The vision that we need in the Congress is somebody who's going to fight for making your government actually smaller. We cannot have less taxes if we don't have less government. Tax and spend doesn't work, borrow and spend doesn't work. We cannot have less government if we don't have less war. We cannot have less government if we don't have a fundamental change in our Congress. We need to have a Congress that understands that the Congress is in charge, not the White House. The Congress decides where we spend our money. The Congress decides how much money we spend. And if our Congress is doing that job and being responsive to you, the voters, all of these things that we're talking about opportunities and progress and economic expansion, those things will happen on their own because that's not the job of a congressman to make those things happen. That's the job of us as citizens. But we need the government to get out of our way. If the government doesn't stay out of our way, we'll never be able to have the true progressive economic expansion that we need to have the lives, healthy, happy, prosperous lives here in eastern North Carolina that only we can create. Nobody who stands up here and tells you that anything they can do is going to make that happen is telling you the truth. Please find me at timharris.org. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Dr. Joan Perry, and my great-grandparents were all farmers. My grandparents were all farmers in Iredell County. But I've spent the last 33 years raising 5 sons, teaching and practicing pediatrics, and intimately involved in our community. So what would make me jump into this? Life experiences brought us to the point where my husband and I were praying about this next chapter. It was the first time in our 37 years we'd had an empty nest. And about that time, I heard the New York legislature cheer the passage of the Reproductive Health Act. And shortly thereafter, the Virginia governor basically defended infanticide. And as a Christian, as a mother, as a grandmother, as a pediatrician, and as a citizen, I just thought this does not represent our values in eastern North Carolina. I have cared for, as a pediatrician, thousands of babies so small you can hold them in your hand, and babies so tiny that their eyes were fused who still grew up to be valuable citizens in our community. This drove me to my knees and got me out of my chair. So I think there needs to be a counter voice to some of those in Washington and across the country, a female voice that can speak strongly to this issue of defending the unborn, and one with medical expertise. Secondly, I'm a political outsider. I've never run for public office. I certainly wouldn't consider this a promotion, and it would definitely not be a career. I believe it is a calling. I think you all know what it means to need a voice in Washington. You as farmers understand so many struggles that are going around across our country. You need a voice, and you need someone that considers this a calling. I think there needs to be a fresh face, new ideas, new life experiences, someone who knows how to leverage resources, and someone who thinks innovatively. My vision for America is a strong America that fosters life. We hear we hear the principles of life from Scripture echo through our Constitution. They're reflected in the precious freedoms that we have in First Amendment. They're reflected in policy that comes from those freedoms, and that is a smaller, less intrusive government that not only protects our freedoms, but protects our families, our family values, and will keep our families from being supplanted by government. Each time I have the awesome privilege of putting a stethoscope to a child's chest, I'm thinking I can write an antibiotic prescription and bring some alleviation for immediate need. But more than that, I'm thinking about what will give this child hope for their future. What gives you hope for your future? I believe it's an America that fosters life and policies that come from that. Life that is represented to them for not only in those freedoms, but also in the education and economic opportunity that we have to offer through those freedoms. If that's your vision for your children and your grandchildren, I would ask that you would consider voting for me. You can find me online, drjoanperry.com. Thank you.
Okay, good morning. I'm Graham Boyd from Pinetown, North Carolina. The first audience on the trail. I probably have not had to describe it to you where that's located. There's a slogan that all politics are local, and today it is. I looked out here at the 20 tables, so there's 100 or so in the audience, guys, and I'm sad to inform you that over 10% have the same last name as me. I grew up here in Pinetown, North Carolina, born and raised in Beaufort County Hospital, went to high school in Bath, North Carolina. I got inspired and excited about ag policy, served as a national officer in the FFA organization, and that afforded an opportunity to understand agriculture and how the government works. I had the privilege and honor of meeting President Reagan in the Oval Office. Got some very cool cataloged photographs of that. And so my entire career has been focused on being a champion, a fighter, an advocate for the issues that matter to our livelihoods. I serve as executive director of the Tobacco Growers Association. Again, guys, apologies, but the president of the association is in the audience today, Steve Griffin over here. We work on a daily basis fighting for the farm leadership needs of our citizens here and across the country, along with Peter Daniel and Linda Andrews at Farm Bureau. We're in the fight. So I have testified before Congress in helping to advance and achieve the tobacco buyout, which was instrumentally important to us in transitioning North Carolina agriculture. My career has been built upon trying to deliver solutions, and that's why I'm running for Congress. My dad is here today with me. Today is his birthday. Give me an extra 3 seconds, Tina. He's 86 years old today. Thank you for that. And I hope that the first thing he does on his birthday after this is go early vote. And I hope he votes for me. My sister is here as well in the back, and I thank them for coming, and many other relatives. Listen, I'm able to continue to farm on his land because of Larry Boyd and Doug Boyd and Todd Boyd, who are here in the audience today. I'm excited to have the endorsement of Commissioner of Agriculture Steve Troxler, a four-term elected Republican. I am running as a conservative Republican. I believe in those important values of faith, family, and freedom instilled in me by my mom and dad. As many of you all know, being local here, my mom passed in December. And so, today we're going to think of her and hold her in our heart when we go, Dad, hopefully to vote. He's anxious. He's chomping at the bit to get to Hardee's because that's where the real political meeting's going on this morning. And he and Philip Waters were gracious enough to come here. Listen, go to my website. It's www.grandboyd.com. Be sure and put the www part in there. Somebody hijacked our name, and if you don't, you'll go to a website you don't want your kids to watch at. So anyway, with that, we look forward to the forum, and thank you.
I guess it's my turn. Anyway, most of us were in Currituck County last night, and I'm gonna be honest with you, about like this campaigning stuff is about like being on the road with Willie Nelson. You get up the next morning and you had to drink some coffee and get to where you're going. But anyway, my name's Don Cox. Probably most of you people in here know me. I have ran for 2 political offices in Beaufort County, twice for county commissioner. Each time I got caught up in a recount and requested a recount, and both times it was a mandatory recount, and the first time single digits, the last time we were right in the ballpark. I certainly do have some concerns in our country right now, and if you'll look at my slogan, it's called taking the country back. And the reason we came up with that is because Pam and I, my better half, we talked about this thing after we finally decided that I may run for this office, of just where people are at in this country, and what happened during this last presidential election, and why so many people had lost their voice, because we are the silent majority. We do remain quiet. We don't always get out in the streets and jump up and down and to get our way. But what we were lacking was a man that would be willing to do that, and that's President Trump. And he has been our voice. He has been jumping up and down. He does some mighty radical things sometimes, but he is my president, and I do plan on voting along with this president. I agree with most all of his agenda, and one of the things I would like to see, which I'm afraid we're a little bit too far along in the process, is I would love to see Obamacare totally repealed and just we start over. But I think we're too saturated now. My daughter and I, Brianna, which she's had a big bearing on me becoming involved in politics, because I want to leave a better country for her, a better place for her than what I had. But for the first time, I don't think we're gonna be able to do that. We did go out a couple of years ago, and we fought for repeal of Obamacare. Walter wouldn't go along with us. McCain wouldn't go along with us. So many wouldn't go along with us. I'll guarantee you I'll go along with the president on this. And together, y'all, if you'll let me be your voice, and I want to hear from you, we can take this country back. Thank you.
All right, again, I want to thank all the candidates for coming out and letting them hear what they had to say. I want to thank the public for coming out. Let's remember to go vote. I believe it's we're early voting, or the primary, I believe, is April 30th. There's a few people I want to recognize and thank from Raleigh. Some of the Farm Bureau staff, if you would, just raise your hand or stand. Peter Daniel, Assistant to the President. Okay, Miss Linda Andrews, National Legislature Director. All right. And then we have some of the public policy staff. Keith Lavick, I can't remember. Milo Lewis. Sean Harden. Taylor Fish. She's the field rep, I believe, just south of us, correct? Then anybody from Beaufort County Farm Bureau Board of Directors, please stand. Also, any elected officials, whether you're a county commissioner, sheriff, if anybody from the state here, please stand as well. And also, the guys you met at the door as you come in, if they're still here, the local FFA students. I think that's all. Again, I want to just thank everyone for coming out. Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes, I appreciate it. Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir.